Welcome to the first match of the evening, the first best of 5. We're on Galactic Process, spawning to the top right hand corner. In teal, playing Terran, it's Grizzly. And to the bottom left, in purple, playing Zerg for my risk, it's our German Miezekotze. So, who just sends out the Overlord and is actually on paper the sheer favorite in this match. We just have to say that right from the get-go, I feel. Since Miezekotze right now in the ranking is somewhere around place 2 or 3, I think, and Grizzly unfortunately is somewhere down at rank 13 or 12 maybe, so more to the bottom of the ladder. Of course, these two have already faced each other in Season 1, and Miezekotze won easily, I think, with a 3-0. So let's actually see if Grizzly can this time around get a better result, or maybe even be victorious over her opponent, which would be a huge upset, just looking at the factual numbers we have here. But still, Grizzly has improved quite a lot throughout Season 1. Hasn't really had that much time to practice lately. Has actually been streaming a little bit more StarCraft during the last few days, I feel. So maybe she just prepared very well for her opponent, knows how to play her a little bit, and might just throw something at her that might surprise Miezekotze or just catch her off guard. And then she might be able to just actually take a win off of her, a map off of her, and like I said, maybe even 3, but it's going to be a difficult task. So, we see Grizzly just opening with one barracks into command center and then into another barracks. So, mostly just a usual standard opening by Terran. She just prefers to build the command center on the high ground, just in case that Miezekotze might to commit to a lot of early links, more than the usual 6 she usually builds, because the command center just will be safe on the high ground. Nothing will be able to penetrate through these buildings once they're done, because there's always the possibility for Grizzly to just pull some workers and have them counter-repair these buildings. So once they are done, she can actually just infinitely repair them against units that just can't shoot over them. So Miezekotze's Overlord arrives, just sees how everything is set up. In the meantime, she already has the first few lings around. Reaper just trying to be a bit of a nuisance here, doesn't really get any kills, but the 6 lings are still around to just fend it off. Grizzly has to evacuate the Reaper before Metabolic Boost finally gets through. She can't really know. I mean, of course, they are the usual timing, so she could know that she's still safe somewhere around 3 minutes and a little bit later, but in the stress of a real match, you often just forget to have a look at that watch. You usually just refer to your own internal timings, and they tell you when to evade and when to get back in. And maybe they don't really tell that well for Grizzly over here, but she just wants to move in. Maybe just gets 1 kill on that 1 ling and could just evacuate using that ledge over here. But these lings will just have speed in just a minute, and if Grizzly is then still close to them, but she just gets barely out of time. So, nice timing here, and now just speed finished up, so now the lings would have been actually quick enough in order to get the Reaper, but it's far, far away already. In the meantime, the Orbital Command has finished. We also have the factory done. Stin is already on its way. It's mostly the build that Sylvanas actually uses a lot in TvZ. So Grizzly might have just copied it from her, or is just using the same build because it's pretty secure and safe. The only difference being that Sylvanas usually takes her command center right away on the low ground, while Grizzly just wanted to have it safe and secure up in her main and now just flies it down. In the meantime, of course, Miezekotze just did the typical Zerg thing, realizing with the Overlord earlier on that the command center was already being built, so she just took the hatchery herself, now has a 30 spawn up as well, wants to take down the destructible rocks as soon as possible, because there's just this abusable little position down here where Terran can actually unload tanks and then just fire straight onto this hatchery. And if the rocks haven't been taken down by then, it's actually pretty difficult for Zerg to defend over here and to just try to attack down here at the same time. If the Terran just sets up the attack well enough, it's really difficult to hold for Zerg. I mean, you can hold eventually, but it just costs you way more than it actually should. So Overlord flying in, Grizzly just had a Marine in position, will kill it eventually, but not before Miezekotze just actually gets all the important information, except for the 2 engineering base here. But she's just seen all the tech buildings, knows that it's a bio play that Grizzly is going into, that she will be able to have Medivacs out in just a few seconds, but nothing that she hasn't really expected out of her, I feel. So Baneliness just finishes in time. She doesn't have Baneling speed yet, but she doesn't even have a lair as well. So for now, she just has to play with only Lings and a few slow Banelings, but the creep spread is very well drawn out already. Grizzly didn't really attack any with anything, didn't really attack early on, so she didn't really have the chance to clear the creep somehow with like Hellions or a slight little Marine push where she just scanned and tried to get rid of some of these creep tumors. So as long as she's on creep, slow Banelings are kinda okay-ish, I feel. And now of course the drop is already out, typical 16 Marine drop at that timing here, now moving in, getting right into the 3rd base, right behind the minerals, where it's actually a little bit difficult for Zerg to engage, especially once this bio ball is finally out. And with 2 Medivacs around, the healing power of these Marines and the damage power of these Marines is actually really, really well done here. So Banelings just trying to roll in, and at that point Grizzly has to evacuate, but has already dealt a lot of damage. 6 drones have been killed, a lot of Lings have been killed as well. So some economic damage was dealt with that attack, so that was actually quite okay for Grizzly, I feel. I think she might just want to drop down here and maybe try to take it out as well, while also attacking with a few units over to the left-hand side, but no, actually just retreats completely. I think she just missed the opportunity to just deal some damage over here as well. Would have probably not been able to take it down anyways with just 8 Marines and the hatchery already at half health. It's difficult to say, but I think she would have really not been successful with that. I mean, up until now, it actually looks quite okay for Grizzly that far. She's not too far behind Miezekotze's supply here. Miezekotze still on pretty low tech. I mean, if we see Centrifugal Hooks just finishes in time, which is actually very great for Miezekotze, but she doesn't actually have that many Banelings, so the few Banelings she has really needs to hit the targets that she wants to have. And whoa, actually Grizzly is really respectful of that creep over here. It doesn't actually want to engage too far, and like I said before, the creep spread is just amazing, or has just been amazing for Miezekotze so far. At the moment she's not really taking care of it anymore because she just has too many other things to deal with. And now of course she, well actually I don't really know why she actually loads up that tank. I really feel that she would have wanted that tank to fire into these Lings and Banelings here, maybe killing off some of them before actually unloading him. I mean, this is actually quite a nice position here on the high ground, just trying to attack down here and then getting in, getting some free shots onto these Lings and Banelings. Could actually just use the tank here to focus fire these Banelings, which she actually unfortunately doesn't. So now she again just has to fly out, and the second attack just didn't really deal any much damage. And that's now the biggest problem for Grizzly. Now, with this attack not doing that much damage, and also, well, kinda expanding back here, but not really saturating the expansion at the same time, Grizzly is now on actually only 2 bases. I mean, yes, she has the 3rd base building up, but she can't even land it because Miezekotze is still being annoying with her little Lings down here, just delaying that base for a little bit longer. But yeah, it's not saturated yet. It's getting saturated with a few SCVs, but Miezekotze has had her 3rd base for quite some time and has now already actually started, or has actually even almost finished saturating her 4th base. So she's already 1 base ahead. After realizing that Grizzly took her 3rd, she could just easily take a 5th of her own over here. Might as well just try to take the 5th over here, it seems, because she just wants to tear down the rocks. So I feel she will take 1 drone here and then just expand to this location in order to just have all her mining bases a little bit more closer to each other, so that it becomes a little bit more easier to defend. Because as you can see, this is like a triangle of bases now here, just having all the new expansion, this being the oldest one and this being the freshest one, and that now would be then the freshest one. If you just took a base over here, then you would have your important mining bases very far far spread away from each other, so I think that's really a smart move, taking the 5th base down there as soon as she can. Oh, and Grizzly not realizing that she flies right into his Spore Crawler, so this medevac just gets fended off pretty easily, just unloads underneath this Overlord, but that will just give Miezekotze plenty of time to just split off some army forces in order to kill that over here. Actually, she even has some Banelings in position already, so can just easily take this out. Runs in with a few Lings, doesn't really want to get caught by surprise, also has some Lings and Banelings in position here as well. Well, one medevac just flying across this Spore Crawler right into the main base, so Doom drop, but even there, some Zerglings were still standing around. Miezekotze just reading her opponent like an open book, just knows exactly what she has to take care of even before Grizzly thinks about it, and does it. 16 Mutalisks now on the way. They will stop every drop drop play from happening anymore, and then I feel Miezekotze can just easily transition into the Ultralisk tech that she's already started before the 10-minute mark, and once Ultralisks just hit the field, there's not much that Grizzly can actually do. She's still trying to spend, or she's still actually spending resources into the usual Bio Ball that Terran should normally use, or just has to use, throughout the mid-game in order to deal enough damage so that the Ultra transition won't be too powerful for the Zerg, but Grizzly unfortunately only did one really good push that helped her out to throw Miezekotze back a little bit, and since then actually there was no throwback whatsoever for Miezekotze. Actually, Actually, the opposite was actually what it was. Sorry for that. Actually, the opposite was what happened here. That Miezekotze actually attacked and harassed her opponent, or just made her lose a lot of units and just take unfavorable trades. So Miezekotze just, we see it in the supplies as well, way ahead now. Just needs actually to trade a few units right now so that she can just make space in her supply for more Ultralisks that she definitely has the resources for. Now even expanding to the gold base. And it's actually, I think, even blocked her own 5th base over here with a creep tumor, but maybe the Ultralisks are not even needed. Miezekotze just runs in, the army of Grizzly being pretty small. The Mutas are even able to take out small groups of Marines here. Orbital Command still hanging above, and now losing 25 workers to the Banelings. But yeah, like I said, this is just what Miezekotze actually wanted. Finally a good trade for her units. She can just reproduce all of her supply in an instant, and will then just come back with an even stronger and more powerful army. So, like I said, not really much that Grizzly can actually do. Miezekotze even taking the other gold base over here. Grizzly just desperately trying to take that 4th base with 57 supply. But like I said, the damage dealt throughout the mid-game just nowhere close to enough to stop Miezekotze from transitioning into the all-too dangerous Ultras. GG, and Miezekotze takes the first game convincingly 1-0. It's King Sejong Station, spawning to the top left-hand corner in purple, playing Zerg for my risk. It's Miezekotze. And to the bottom right, in teal, playing Terran, it's Grizzly, who still has a difficult task ahead of her. First thing would be to take a map off of the favorized Zerg. And she really has to think of something that might help her win against her. She did good early in the game, where she just managed to get the drop towards the 3rd base location, killing off a lot of workers there. Should have maybe just tried to deal some more damage at the point, but it's always easier said than done. But from then on, I feel she just was a little bit behind with her own expansion, and of course then with her macro, not being able to keep up the aggression and keep up the unit production to keep up the aggression. So she just fell back a little bit. The next wave of aggression actually just didn't really deal that much damage at all. It didn't really seem like she was actually harassing her opponent, putting her under pressure. It more seems like Miezekotze was just easily able to fend that push off, not even breaking a sweat. And that's of course not what you want to happen. As a Terran player playing Bio against Zerg, you actually just need to constantly be in your opponent's face in order to always make them reproduce workers, always make them reproduce the cheap units, always make them spending gas into banelings and maybe some mutas to help fend off that drop play, so that they just don't have enough gas and minerals left to really make the transition into the late game well enough in order to get a huge mass of ultras out before you can actually just strike the killing blow. That's just the usual tactic you want to go through. And once your aggression actually stops for like a minute or two, well, a minute might be just barely okay, but 2 minutes in a row, or maybe even 3, then you're just done for. Zerg will just get a superior economy, will just have easily enough units to push off any, or to fend off any push that actually is headed the way. And it seems as if the early links are something that Grizzly didn't really expect to happen, although actually Miezekotze builds them every game. But like I said before in the first game, these links can't really do actual damage. Yes, they do damage in some sort of way. They don't really kill anything, but they of course force these SEV from the mineral line. So Grizzly now losing a lot of mining time, also losing some minerals, because counter-repairing depots also costs minerals as well. Not really that much that it makes a big difference. But yeah, 5 SEVs not working on the mineral line right now is of course still a huge deal. So these 6 Zerglings already dealt some damage, and they of course forced back the first Reaper, I feel, back into the base in order to help maybe defend. She also now has a few Marines out. Where is actually the Reaper? Is it already on the other side of the map? There was a Reaper somewhere. Oh no, it's down here. Okay, just checking for I don't know whatever. Maybe just for a Ling back here that might want to check for the third base and maybe block it later on. But now the Reaper was shortly on the move towards Miezekotze's base, but I think Grizzly doesn't really want to send it in anymore via the direct route, because she always lives in danger of losing it to some speedlings, because she knows that her opponent might have metabolic boost done by now. She doesn't actually, because she decided to take the hatchery a little bit earlier, maybe even forgot to put the spawning pool on, or does she even have? No, it's not. The gas actually didn't go anywhere else. So it seems as if Miezekotze just wanted to take gas a little bit later in order to get the hatchery out a little bit earlier, and then she just went into the Speedling upgrade, or maybe she just forgot it for a little while, but it hasn't been done yet, is what I want to say. But Grizzly of course can't really know that, and then moving across the map with a Reaper just straight into the mineral line of the second base is just a difficult thing to do. Has to be careful not to lose the Reaper here to 2 queens, but she does, not really gathering that much information. But of course the most important information for her was to see that a third base is already up anyways. In the meantime, she just tries to fill the hole, fill the gap, fill just the entrance towards her natural base with buildings, so that Zerglings and Banelings just won't have such an easy time to break through and kill off her units that stand behind it. Okay, getting the Overlord killed. So what information did Miezekotze actually get? Well, again, she just saw everything. She also saw the tech lab researching, knows that it's just going to be the same good old push she's seen in the game before. The Sylvanas build, I might just call it, although I know that it's not really invented by Sylvanas, but we see her using it very often in her TvZ games. Sylvanas actually plays it with 1 more mine, and this takes rather we actually see Hellions here, so it might seem as if she just wants to go for a Hellbat stim timing here. Well, actually missing the timing a little bit, because stim is already done. The Hellions are not done yet. She will be able to just load them in. I think only... Oh no, with Hellions you can actually load 4 in, right? So she could have just gotten one of these Hellions and also put it into the medevac and then just fly across. Maybe morphing it into an Hellbat once it just dropped, and then dealing tons of damage actually to Lings. So I think with the Hellions together, morphing into Hellbats, this push would have been a lot stronger now. So in the meantime, well, it seems to be the anti-timing for Miezekotze. She just runs around, tries to put some pressure onto her opponent while The drop is actually coming. Miezekotze must have seen it. Now just returns with all of her links, just pulls them back completely into her own base. So there the links are, just sending them towards the medevacs, just picking off Marines once they drop out. More and more links are streaming in. So it seems with not really the 16 Marines around, but I think it were about 4 Marines less, or maybe 3 Marines less. She just didn't really have the time, and now even forgetting to have a good look at her own supply depots at home, was just too busy watching the front and then just microing everything at the front that she totally forgot about home. And luckily for her, a few units had already been rallied towards her natural entrance, so she was just able to push everything back, just that break through her supply depots. But that could have been just way worse. I mean, this supply depot might actually just burn down. It doesn't really matter that much for the supply because she has all supply anyways, but there's more Lings and Banelings just coming in. Miezekotze just out producing her opponents on Lings and Banes, and unfortunately, like I said, now the gap is open and the Lings and Banelings can just run in. She doesn't even need the Banelings to break through, or would have not needed these Banelings to break through the wall. Now she does, just breaks through everything, runs these Banelings into the remaining Marines. A lot more Banelings trying to get into the mineral line as well. The rest of the Banelings just walking up the ramp, killing every force that's in the main base as well. Grizzly drops down to 37 supply. GG's out, and Miezekotze takes the second game as well. It is New Gettysburg. Spawning to the bottom right hand corner in purple is our Protoss player, it's our Zerg player, leading 2-0. It's Miezekotze. And to the bottom left in teal, playing Terran, has to win 3 in a row. Difficult thing to do. It's Grizzly. Starting with a supply depot, the wall off on top of the ramp, not going for any sort of early wrecks down at the natural ramp shenanigans here, and it's always a bit risky to do against Miezekotze since we've already seen that Miezekotze likes to play her early Lings before the opponent actually has the big chance to really have a lot of units out already, and especially on a two-player map where your opponent already knows where you spawn right from the get-go. It can be kind of tricky to just fend off that early Ling push if you try to take buildings right at the natural ramp. That can just backfire very quickly, and especially if you know that your opponent usually builds 6 early Zerglings in order to put some pressure onto you, or just get scouting information, or both, if possible. So, for Miezekotze, it's just the standard Zerg opening, hatch into gas, into pool. So, sending workers into gas as soon as possible, and then she will usually just have enough gas in order to research the speedling upgrade once the pool pops. She will also have enough minerals to get a queen, and then she will also have enough minerals to just send out the first few Zerglings. In the meantime, we have the typical Rex expand for Grizzly here, going into a Reaper right behind it in order to get some scouting information, and then just getting a second barracks up, because after building the Reaper and delaying that reactor for so long, you can't really produce that many units out of this one building, and if a big push comes, you will just not have enough units out in order to defend. So you just want to have more structures that help you pumping out units as soon as possible. So, Reaper now just making its way towards the third base. That's always the most important information. We want to see whether the opponent took an early third or not. Here are the typical 6 Zlings. Now it's 4, but now it's 6. And there they run, and now Grizzly just has to micro her little heart out, while her opponent can just A-click onto this unit, make it follow around. So, of course, Grizzly can now chase, or cannot just escape from these Lings, trying to take out one after another for, like, as long as she wants, but of course it also keeps her from making things at home. I mean, if you micro right out on the map, you can't really be at home at the same time, now can you? So your minerals just pile up, and you really have to think about whether it's worth doing it any longer, if you just will get out whatever you want out of it. I mean, just killing a Ling here or there is usually not worth delaying your own other tech buildings for like a minute maybe, or half a minute, because you're just so busy microing that Reaper over here that you just forget to build things at home. So you always have to check whether it's worth it for you or not, if you really can deal critical damage where you are right now, and then it's just worth delaying everything at home, or if you just run back for a little bit, build something at home, and then just come back a little bit later. So, Grizzly trying to seal off the natural ramp with a bunker and a few other buildings. She has now landed her orbital command, while Miezekotze has already taken her third base and will just saturate it in just a little while. It's actually quite interesting that Grizzly chose New Gettysburg here. As you might know, as a regular viewer of the FSL, in these best of fives, the player with a lower MMR picks the first map, and from then on it's loser's choice. And since Grizzly lost the last game, she had the choice for this match. And she actually chose New Gettysburg as the next map, which is probably the most heavily Zerg favored map in this map pool. So the map is just huge. You have a lot of bases that are quite close to each other. Actually, even if taking a fourth base over here or over here, and then even a fifth base is pretty easily defended, because you can just rally your army towards this location, and then it's not very far to either of these locations here. You can just easily defend to everywhere, no problem whatsoever. Thus, taking a lot of bases for Zerg is actually easier for the Zerg player to do than for the Terran player, and that means that you can usually just easily transition into a heavy macro game. And playing against a Zerg player that's actually superior to you on paper already, forcing yourself into a long drawn-out macro game, I don't know if it's actually the best idea. And we already see the supply difference here between Grizzly and Miezekotze already. Miezekotze just having way more workers, just pressing the drone button like crazy, as we can see, while transitioning into lair, just getting a few spore crawlers here and there. Miezekotze just plays it also super safe, but she also knows her timings, knows when her opponent might arrive with a medevac drop. Grizzly just leaving some marines around patrolling in order to take down scouting overlords, so that's just a nice move by her. But Miezekotze, again, as we can see, has magnificent passive scouting, just knows everything that's going on the map, be it at the third base location or the potential third base location of her opponent, or be it just on her half of the map. So creep spread maybe not as good as on Galactic Process, but still well enough in order to see everything far enough in advance. So, Grizzly now finally transitioning into Widow Mine. So this is the first time we see her using this, but she has just laid back for quite some time. Her push actually starts way later than in the other two games, and she doesn't even take the Widow Mine with her, and I think the Widow Mine are actually the strong suit of this push here. So having them with your drop is, I think, really essential this time around. I mean, just have a look. In the meantime, Miezekotze didn't transition into her usual Ling Bane composition, but this time around she just goes into Roach Ravager, and this will probably surprise Grizzly quite a lot. I think she doesn't actually even know what her opponent was going for right now. Except for having scouted the third base, she hasn't even scanned the main base, so she does not really know what composition is headed her way. Just sees the amount of Roach Ravager that's coming at her, knows that her 16 Marines just won't stand a chance against this forces. So she just picks up once more and moves out. But that's already a loss. That's already such a big loss. She's just delayed everything at home to be able to just get this push out as fast as possible, and now it just didn't do any damage. No, she even took damage because she even lost a few of these. Now even has to fly across creep, so Miezekotze knows exactly where her opponent is. Miezekotze just being at the back of the base because there's one medevac over here that's actually empty, as she had to kill most of these units here. And that's actually now the first good attack that Grizzly gets going here. Just gets into the mineral line, killed 6, 7, 8 drones over here. Not that bad, and then just moves out without taking any more losses. So that's actually the first successful attack she had. but I don't know if Miezekotze at that point in time, with the 4th almost done and a lot of roaches already built as well, so she doesn't really need to reinforce her army, so she can just focus on Echo as much as she wants. So I think the 8 drones are just something she can easily reproduce once more, even transitioning into Hive already at the 8-minute mark, so ultras are also not far away from happening. And Miezekotze just takes a huge supply lead at 30 supply, just having 22 more workers than her opponent, and is even up in army supply, although you might argue that the army supply is not really worth that much more. But it seems as if Grizzly unfortunately also forgot combat shield, and she's not even researching it at all, so it seems as if she's just forgotten about it. So her Marines, all of her Marines, and Marines are just the backbone of her army, all have 10 hit points less, or will just have 10 hit points less in a fight, and that's a huge deal. So Grizzly unfortunately just falling behind, now trying to move into Liberators. Liberators not the best answer to Roach Ravagers, since Ravagers can kinda easily pick out the Liberators. Of course, if you just get a good mass of them, it still becomes, or it actually becomes a bit difficult for Ravagers and Roaches to just move close enough to the Liberators, especially once they get their range upgrade. But yeah, at that point in time, I think Grizzly just wants to kind of transition into late game already, wants to get as many Liberators out. That might also help her against the Ultralisk. But like I said before, I mean, her time is almost up. She just desperately tries to deal some more damage somewhere, but trading units is actually not the thing she wants to do. That's of course what Miezekotze wants to do, because she already has the economy up. She just can't afford to lose units while the opponent loses units as well, just trading them and then building better ones afterwards. That's just actually what a Zerg player wants to do. So nice little harassment there by Grizzly as well, just having a mine placed down here. This mine actually has two kills. There might have been another one I just have missed. So she tried to do as much as as good of a harassment as she can, now even flying in with a Liberator over here, just gets a good army chunk over here as well, maybe just wants to fly over the gap and just unloads here, and then maybe attacking into the 3rd base. I don't really know. Liberator is now up here, will just fly in a little bit later and then put siege on this drone line over here. Okay, just trying to get a little creep done. Like I said, I mean, Grizzly just trying not to heavily overcommit with an engagement, but still trying to deal some damage somehow. She's probably expecting Ultralisk to just happen pretty soon, that Ultralisk will hit the field pretty soon. And yeah, once they do, I mean, I don't really know what Grizzly is supposed to do. She just mostly has a very weak Bioforce that's not even fully upgraded. She only has 1-1, while her opponent is already researching to 2. Well, she's actually at the same time, so upgrade-wise it's kinda okay. Chitinous plating is almost done. The Ultralisk won't be 8 armor Ultralisks, so with a good stimmed Bioforce and some micro, you should still be able to handle them. But the problem with micro is that there are infestors around, and the fungal just catches the army units in position. That's just also the backbone of a typical Roach Ravager force. The Biles usually won't hit stimmed Bioforce if the Terran just pays attention. But of course, if you have fungal and can just keep these units in place while the Biles rain down, then the Bio just dies instantly to everything that rains down on them. The Ultras just being a mere bonus here, hacking through everything, just drawing the attention of the Bio forces. Miezekotze just breaks through, takes the gold base in the meantime, but the natural is broken. I repeat, the natural is broken. In the meantime, we have a small engagement in the middle of the map where Grizzly just tries to deal some more damage, but she has to realize, and realize soon, this game is over. Miezekotze just breaking through the supply depot, has now broken into the main base. GG, and Miezekotze takes the game with a 3-0.